Lovelies, and welcome back to Spooky's Cauldron, where we explore all things magic, mischief, and mayhem, with the intent of coming out the other side a little bit brighter, a little bit wiser, and a little bit spicier. I'm your host, Sarah Evergreen, and I just want to thank you so much for being here today, for taking a little bit of time to put my voice in your ears and my face on your screen. Today, we're talking about lovely Lady Lilith, Queen of Hell, demonic succubus, maligned mother figure. There's a lot to explore with this paragon of dark feminine energy, and I'm super excited to get into it with you. This is the second part in a series on working with spirits and deities, so if you haven't already, check out last week's episode all about the Queen of Witches herself, Hecate. Before we get into it, I'd like to invite you to rate, comment, like, subscribe, you know the drill. All of that good stuff really helps me to know that you're out there listening and watching, and it also helps to get this podcast and these videos into more eyes and ears so that more people can get access to this information, which I think is really important. That's why I'm doing it. Research for this episode includes Michael Herc's book, Glam Witch, an article on Lilith by Janet Howe Gaines from Biblical Archaeology, and Tracy Louise Smith's dissertation, Lilith, a Mythological Study, as well as plenty of my own personal experience. Links to all of these writings will be in the show notes. And so, on to the show. First off, who is Lilith? She is portrayed in the media as a demon, very often, the queen of the vampires, mother of vampires, or deity rather, who is dark and mysterious and often quite violent and someone that you don't really want to meet in a dark alley. Definitely someone that you don't want to actively search out and work with. But who is she going back? She is most well known in Judeo-mythology as Adam's first wife. So the story goes that God created Adam, and then he created a female. And this was before he created Eve from Adam's rib. And in Judaic texts, we can see that God created her from the earth, the same as he created Adam from the earth. So they were of the same being, you know? So from this, we can extrapolate that Adam and Lilith came from the same place. A lot of the patriarchal rhetoric that we get kind of puts women in a lower status because they were created from Adam's rib. So they were created from him, so they belong to him. But in this dynamic, Lilith and Adam are the same. However, within their relationship, Adam was like, I still want you to not be equal to me. And Lilith, she wanted to be on top while they were having sex. She wanted to be treated as an equal. She wanted to have equal say and be able to speak her mind and be free. And Adam was like, nah, babe, nah. And so Lilith spoke the ineffable name of God. This is something that you're not supposed to do. It's ineffable for a very reason. You can't effing say it. But she did. She knew the name of God, first of all. And then she had the chutzpah to actually speak it out loud. And when she did this, she sprouted wings and she flew out of Eden. And she flew off to live in a cave by the Red Sea in a desert area. When she got to this cave, she started meeting up with demons and fornicators and basically kind of a party vibe. She was having lots of sex. She was having lots of babies. She was very prolific in the baby department. Then Adam started being like, hey, God, so Lilith, she's gone, and, I want her back, so, can you do something, please? And so God sent 3 angels to go and fetch Lilith back to Adam. But when they got there, she was like, no fucking way, I want to be treated as an equal, and he's obviously not going to do this. He continues to say that he's not going to do this. He just wants to bring me back to Eden and trap me in this dynamic where I'm subservient to him. And she's like, no, I'm not interested. Thanks, though. And so God said that he would kill 100 of her children for every day that she stayed in this cave at the Red Sea. And she was like, Jesus. Well, not Jesus, but you know what I mean. She was like, what? That is awful, and you suck, and so now I'm gonna go kill a bunch of children too. So fuck you. And then these angels were tasked with killing her, and she said, you know what? Instead of me killing all of the babies, how about I only kill the babies that aren't wearing an amulet of protection with my name on it? And they were like, okay, I guess you can live. So we can see from her striking a deal with God through these angels and the amulet of protection, this kind of thing, that she's not, just this rogue, demon, evil. She's still deeply connected to the heavens, to God, in so much so that she has this bargaining power. And I wanted to read something from the Biblical Archaeology Society article that I found that I thought was kind of interesting. So it's right after talking about how she's made this deal with God. Lilith's relationship with Adam is a different matter. Their conflict is one of patriarchal authority versus matriarchal desire for emancipation, and the warring couple cannot reconcile. They represent the archetypal battle of the sexes. Neither attempts to solve their dispute or to reach some kind of compromise where they take turns being on top, literally and figuratively. Man cannot cope with woman's desire for freedom, and woman will settle for nothing less. In the end, they both lose. Now, I wanted to read this particular passage because of how deeply and fundamentally I disagree with it, where it says, man cannot cope with woman's desire for freedom. Man cannot cope with woman's desire for freedom. Now, I don't know about you, but the men that I've met, not the man-childs, not the boys parading around as men, but the men, the self-confident, self-aware, grounded men that I have met, absolutely can cope with, and I put that in very strong air quotes, a woman's desire for freedom. Not just cope with, but actively support it and really push for that freedom. There is this idea that men need to be able to possess their women in order for positive, healthy, normal dynamic to exist, and that is just bonkers. And it leads to the patriarchy, first of all. It leads to rape culture. It leads to people being in loveless relationships, horrible relationships. Oh, so many I've seen where the woman feels like she has to show up in this particular way, and the man feels like he is entitled to demand her showing up in that particular way. Not true. That is not necessary for a loving, actually it's anathema to a loving relationship. A man who supports a woman's need for freedom and self-expression and sexual expression is a man who can stand in his own, is a man who is worthy of being in a relationship with a strong and independent woman. Someone who evokes these attributes of Lilith, which is exactly what I'm talking about this, so that we can all start to dig into evoking these aspects of Lilith in our own lives and bringing that forward, both men and women. Lilith worship is not limited to women only. I think that it can be extremely beneficial, and I've seen it be extremely beneficial for men to be directly involved in study and worship and evocation, which is the embodiment of Lilith and her archetype and her energies. So back to a little bit more of her history, just to give a little bit more context. Lilith is also connected to Lalita in Hindu mythology. Lalita is an epithet for Parvati, who is Shiva's wife. So here again, we see a healthy relationship dynamic where they both give each other lots of room and space to be free and be themselves and have their own pastimes, and they come together with love and respect and honor and partnership, like working together to build something. Parvati is generally shown as being a very nurturing mother type archetype, but she also has these aspects to her that are very destructive, and those epithets would be Kali and Durga, which you're probably familiar with at least one of those. In Sumerian mythology, we have Lilith, the Sumerian wind spirit, who is attached to these ideas of uncleanliness, disease, barrenness, the desert wasteland. She comes sweeping through and leaves behind a trail of destruction. Conversely, she's also known in Sumerian mythology as Inanna's handmaiden and sacred sex worker. In Greece, she's known as Lamia, which is an alternative name for vampire as well. But the Lamia goddess had an affair with Zeus. When Hera found out, Zeus's wife found out, she killed all of Lamia's children. Is this starting to sound familiar? After that happened, Lamia was like, oh, hell no, bitch. And she turned around and started killing children in retaliation. You can see Lilith in so many different cultures, this archetype of the avenging mother, of the woman who has sex for the sake of pleasure and is therefore ousted from society, because as we all know, sex has been used so much as a way to control people in general, but women specifically. She was called a screech owl, like I said earlier, the mother of vampires, a child eater, just to name a few of her references. She is portrayed as so dark, but we all have that darkness in us. And I think if you're listening, you know how much juice, how much growth and transformation is possible when we unashamedly and without fear step into exploring that darkness in ourselves. That's where it all happens. So, who is Lilith to me? I was first introduced to the name of Lilith when I was in high school, and one of my friends in the little group that I had adopted this moniker. And I didn't know much about it, just that I had this vague idea of her being connected to demons and her being connected to vampires, more strongly the vampire thing, just because of the crowd that I ran in. And it wasn't until within the last couple of years that she started making more of an appearance in my life. About a year and a half ago, a little bit more than, I was in a situation where I was exposed consistently and persistently to pretty rough emotional abuse, not directed towards me, but directed towards some children and a woman in the place that I was living. And in that situation, witnessing this thing happening over and over again, Lilith started to come through. And so I started doing some research, I listened to some podcasts, started making art for her, but it wasn't the right time. I think because I was still so much within this vessel of pain, really, that triggered a lot of my old stuff, had a lot of trauma coming up that I needed to work through before I could really step into working with Lilith, because she is, I believe, quite demanding when it comes to working with her, and you have to have a level of grounding in order to really engage in a way that is helpful and not just kind of dramatic or traumatic. After I left that situation and started traveling, she started showing up a bit more, particularly when I was in France. And she would start coming through in my meditations, and she would come through when I was practicing sex magic. And from there, I've started building more and more of a relationship with her, doing more study on her, being more intentional about how I approach her and how often spending more time in devotion to her and praying to her. It's been very gradual though. Like, I have not dived in completely. I just recently acquired a set of prayer beads from Hisam. When he gave me the beads, I was like, I'm not sure what to do with these because they are Muslim prayer beads. So I laid down and I did a journey asking what I should do with them, and Lilith came through very clearly. So I believe that they are meant to be something that I use to work with her specifically, but I'm still like exploring exactly how I want to do that and what words I might want to use as I pray. So it's been bit by bit, and allowing that to trickle in, allowing that relationship to just kind of layer upon itself. I do see her every day when I meditate. She is one of my guides that sits next to me when I call in, my host of helpers. So she's always there. She's always present, just as Hecate is, just as Archangel Michael is, as well as a few other folk that I work with. Doing the work that I have with her has been really supportive. It feels very nurturing. And that is not how she appears for everyone. I do believe that she's always supportive and nurturing, but it may not come through the way that it's come through for me, because she's always been very strong, yes, but not aggressive in any way. And that may or may not be your experience of her. She may come through as a whirlwind of destruction, burn it down so that we can build it back up kind of deal. It really depends on what you need and what she wants to bring you. And the only way to find that out is to start exploring. So, if you want to work with Lilith, what areas would work best with her energy? Female sexuality, that's a huge one. Any kind of sex magic really, but specifically female sexuality and the expression thereof. Authenticity, showing up as an authentic, your full self and not giving a flying fuck. She said God's unsayable name and sprouted wings and fucked off to the Red Sea. And if that's not authenticity, I don't know what is. She was just like, I'm the only woman in this entire world, but I'm going to go do my thing, despite what Adam and God seem to think that I should do. Full on authenticity. Equality between all genders, another big one. If you're looking to bring forth that sense of equality, she is a great deity to turn to and lean on and draw support from. Abortions, reproductive rights, new children, infants, any of these are places where she really shines, and invoking her protection and her power in these realms can be very helpful. Also shadow work, especially around sex and shame. If you're looking to go really deep with your shadow work, Lilith is a great person to accompany you. And lastly, freedom of movement and expression. Again, with the flying and the doing what she wants. If you are having a hard time feeling like you're trapped, or whether that's physically trapped or kind of emotionally trapped and not being able to speak your truth or being able to go where you want to, definitely lean on Lilith. She will help you with that. If you are too feeling physically trapped in an abusive situation, I really urge you to reach out for help. I will include the domestic abuse hotline for the United States in the show notes, just in case that's something that you need. Don't be afraid to ask for help, and Lilith can help you with that too. So, How do you work with Lilith? There are so many ways that you can engage with her energy. First and foremost, as always, just study. Learn a little bit about her. Listening to this podcast is a great start, or watching this video is a great start. Find out about her myths, her various myths across all the different cultures. Read different perspectives of the Judeo-Christian myth of hers. Find that it's very fascinating to see what different people have read and different people have extrapolated from that. Again, Glam Witch is a great book as a super duper primer, kind of for witchcraft in general, but also for working with Lilith specifically. There's lots of YouTube videos, just go nuts, have fun, learn about her. And in this way, you are showing her a level of devotion and energetic entanglement that can go a long way towards developing a relationship. Understand why you want to work with her. Take some time to just step back and be like, okay, what is it about her that attracts me so much? What is it about a relationship with her that I think would be really helpful for me? Getting really clear on that and setting your strong intentions, your clear, strong intentions on that can be extremely helpful, both in navigating the relationship itself and in attracting her to you, because she wants clarity, she wants authenticity, she wants honesty and truth in the people that she works with. So the more that you can kind of embody that, the better. You can find your Lilith placements in your astrological chart if you are into astrology. I am. I think it's great. There will be an article on the blog that tells you all about how to do this. There are 3 different Lilith placements. So you've got the Black Moon Lilith, which is arguably the most important placement, the Dark Moon Lilith, and the Asteroid Lilith. So again, just check out that article. It'll tell you how to find those placements and also a little bit about what they mean. You can do shadow work and offer that practice to her. So anytime you sit down to do some shadow work, just do a quick little prayer like, I offer this to you, Lilith, something like that. It can be super duper simple. Just knowing that you're going into it with the intention of like bringing up this stuff so that you can give it to her and show that you are working on clearing that shit out, which all of that can be an offering to whatever deity that you choose to work with. But again, Lilith is great for doing shadow work with. Also, any kind of meditation and prayer practice, just in general, like I said, she's with me in my meditations every morning, and often she will just show up in a meditation kind of completely unexpected, a lot of times, as well as shamanic journey work that I do. She will show up, and it's always an intense experience. Never a dull moment with dear Lilith. There are several excellent N mantra meditations on YouTube, which I think are pretty cool. They are just something that you can listen to when you are meditating or when you are going into ritual with her, something like this. You can find them by searching N mantra meditation, ENN, for Lilith specifically, and meditations. There will be a Lilith meditation coming out along with this episode, so be sure to check that out. I think it's pretty awesome, and I hope you do too. If you do, let me know. Another thing you can do is create an altar specifically for Lilith, and to do this, you just put anything that resonates with you in regards to her on it. So images of Lilith, statues of Lilith, images of the animals that she's associated with, which is the owl and the snake. Stones such as bloodstone, which I have in my bra right now, and moonstone are also good for working with Lilith. You can put an image of her sigil. You can create your own sigil. You can make one out of clay. She was made from the earth. Clay is earth, so that puts extra energy into it. Or just draw it on a piece of paper. That's also totally cool. And using sensual incense on your altar to her, like jasmine or nakchampa would be a good one. Any of those would be beautiful things to put on your altar. But most importantly, it's what feels right to you. Allow yourself to be led by your intuition. because it is your strongest tool and your absolutely strongest ally. So go with that. You can also bring her offerings, which you can leave on your altar or when you're in ritual with her, or just bring outside and offer to the earth. Some good ones are sex and orgasms. Those are really, really powerful offerings to give to Lilith. And if you're interested in learning more about sex magic and working with that, I've got a whole series that you can check out just before I started this deity series, so go look at that. Poetry and art are great offerings to her. Anything that you've written or drawn or just created with her in mind will be a really beautiful thing to bring to her. And any deity, really, but like that creative sexual energy, because they're one and the same, goes really well with Lilith. Alcohol, red wine is great, rum is great, any of the kind of sexier alcohols, which I think are the darker alcohols. Red roses are beautiful, pink roses as well. Lingerie, you can leave an article of lingerie on your altar, or you can charge it and use it with your partner or with yourself. Dark chocolate is good. Apples and pomegranates, also very good offerings. And blood. Blood is a beautiful offering for Lilith. You can get this from your menstrual blood if you're a person who bleeds, or you can use a lancet to just poke a little tiny bitty hole into your finger, something clean and it's not going to give you an infection. Please do not take a knife and slash your palm. That's ridiculous. Leave that to Hollywood, okay? But a little bit of blood offering or sexual fluid offering can be really powerful. Another way to work with her is in caring for snakes and owls and cats. Cats is another one of the animals that's associated with her. And there's many different ways that you can do this. You can volunteer at shelters, you can donate your time, you can donate supplies to these different places. And I will link a couple of different organizations in the show notes below, specifically for owls and snakes. For cats, you could go to your local shelter and donate your time, energy, or money that way. And just when you're doing it, just do it with the intention that you are doing it for Lilith. Another way to work with her is advocating for women's rights, for sex workers, for reproductive rights. Again, going into that space with the intention that you're honoring Lilith. And lastly, volunteering with or donating to women's shelters and domestic violence shelters. Primo space to work with Lilith. When you're approaching Lilith, much like when you are approaching Hecate or Kali or any other very strong goddess, you need to approach with respect and allow time for the relationship to develop. And within that time, just stay open, listen, look, watch, see what comes up, and pay attention to all of those things that do come up. And allow that to be in your body, allow the embodiment of her energy to come through in little ways, because that too, it creates an attraction and a field that she can work within. While you're in the process of getting to know Lilith and working with her, be brave, but also know your boundaries. For example, sex magic is not for everyone. I'm very deeply called to it and have been called to it with her specifically, but even within that, there are times where I am not comfortable consenting to something that's coming through, something that's being asked of me, and I can just say that, and that's fine. With any of the spirits that you work with, consent is always your best friend in all areas of life, really. You want to be consenting, and you want to get consent from the person or deity or spirit or project that you're working with. I think that's about it. I'm going to wrap it up there. That's Lilith in a nutshell. Remember to take care of yourselves, get lots of rest, drink your water, stay off the news wire as much as possible, okay? And connect with people that you trust. It's important. Thank you for listening. Please like, comment, rate, subscribe, etc. I'd love to hear from you. If you have any requests for future episodes, please let me know. I am always open to suggestions. And don't forget, I do offer custom tarot readings. You can find me on Instagram at squeakies_cauldron or at my website, squeakiescauldron.com. Also, at my website, you can sign up for my bi-monthly newsletter called The Moon Pages. It gives you all sorts of yummy information about the upcoming new moons and full moons with some custom tarot layouts, mini rituals, witchy tips, all sorts of yummy goodness. Next week, we'll dive into working with the angel Michael without all of the religious nonsense attached. Think big, protective, guardian energy, and a few surprises thrown in that I'm pretty sure you would not have expected from working with this particular spirit. So, look forward to that. I will see you then, and until next time, my lovelies, use your